of engendering a more, as a journalist, so I'm being careful, 4 ways of engendering a more sustainable culture. The first, and it's funny, one of my grad students named it, and I like her name for it, but it's so alienating for people. But the first is denaturalize power. Or the way I would put it is pull back the curtain. Right? Think of the moment in The Wizard of Oz where they pull back the curtain. And that's denaturalizing power. It's the moment as a kid when you look at a dollar bill and say, why is this piece of paper worth $1 and that one's not? Right? It's basically asking, since when? Since when, right? This one isn't because it's a social construction. The piece of paper is not worth $1. $1 is a social construction. It's nothing. It's, of course, it's just a construct. And being able to distinguish between nature, between stuff that's real and stuff we've decided. And it's really hard for people. I did Jake Tapper a couple of months ago about AI. And it was when I go back and forth on AI. Sometimes I'm really scared of it. Sometimes I just don't give a shit. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just on a daily basis. I'm undecided. It's fine. And this was the day that they did the pre-interview. I was like, oh no, it's going to kill us all. And then the day I was finally on with him, I was like, I don't give a shit. And he couldn't elicit like a negative response. He goes, what about this? What about that? What about that? Where you wrote in this article, you said this. And so finally he was like, all right, well, what about the unemployment problem? The unemployment problem. And I said, well, Jake, what about the unemployment solution? He's like, what? I goes, I don't really want a job. Does anyone want a job? No, I want stuff. I like money. I like to meaningfully contribute to the world. But jobs? Where did jobs come from? And I'm a historian, whatever. Jobs were invented in the late Middle Ages. People used to be craftspeople and they traded goods in the market. The job was invented after the chartered monopoly and people weren't allowed to be in their industry anymore. They had to work for His Majesty's Royal Jelly Company, His Majesty's Royal Shoe Company, and then they put the clock on the tower in the medieval town. You punch the clock and you're paid wages by it. No one was paid by the hour since, other than enslaved people. I don't want a job. And so, but that's denaturalizing power. That's going, wait a minute, since when? What about just challenging the underlying assumptions, right? Which leads you to 2, which I would call triggering agency, right? Once you see that things don't have to be this way, your agency is triggered to make them a different way. For me, that was the moment I was in one of the very first computer lab in college, where we just had terminals back then, and the computer was somewhere else, and I had to save my file, and the woman, the graduate student, computer student said, how do you want to save your file? As a read-only file or a read-write file? I'm like, what's that? So read-only is other people can read the file, read-write means they can edit the file. I was like, read-write means someone else, that's cool. And I left the computer lab thinking, wait a minute, all this stuff I've been looking at has been presented to me as read-only. Right? Television is a read-only medium, but it could be a read-write. Why can't I make TV? Why can't, so when you move from a read-only understanding of reality to a read-write one, all of a sudden you have the agency to make things the way you want them to be, to change a system or a structure to be more conducive to whatever it is you want it to be. And then what the problem is, you think that, and once your agency is triggered, you realize you can't really do it alone. And you get to the third one, which I'm calling resocialize people. Or really, it should be resocialize the people. To be a little lefty there. Remember the people, a little Maoist almost. Resocialize the people. But the resocializing it's kind of like, I want to put the social back into socialism, not worry about the isms and the Politburo and all, but the part of Marx that was good, which is that we all had human relationships and we all traded and were interacting. It was a social thing. I remember when my daughter graduated high school, we got the picture, the one that you frame, of the it's not even her best picture, but it's the high school picture you're supposed to have. I'm going to put it on the wall. I don't have a drill to get into the plaster. Right? So what do I, as an American, what do you do if you don't have a drill, you go to the Home Depot, get a minimum viable product drill, right? A $39.95 rechargeable drill. You use it once, you get it charged, you drill the hole, you stick it in the garage, and it never works again, right? You leave it there, you get it, and then you throw it out. So what have you done? You've sent kids in Africa into the rare earth mines to get the cobalt metal for a rechargeable drill. You spend all the carbon footprint to make the drill. You used it once. You throw it out. It goes to another junk heap somewhere in Brazil where a bunch of other kids are picking at it to find the renewable parts so they can send it to Apple. And they can stick it in a computer and say that they're a green company. Yeah, right? The amount of damage. I could have flown to Paris 4 times on that, right? Or, this is the resocialize the people part, I could walk down the street to Bob's house, knock on Bob's door, actually ring the bell, and say, Bob, can I borrow your drill? Right, because Bob is one of those guys, he's got like wood planes and shit, the garage is always open and he's routing things, of course he's got a drill. And not only is Bob gonna give me a drill, he's gonna come over with the drill. Right? He's gonna say, Doug, you're not knowing how to find a stud. You're gonna have to put it in an anchor, you're gonna fuck the whole thing up. He's gonna come with the drill and a thing, and he's gonna plug it in the wall the way God intended, right? It's whenever you're born is the technology that God wanted, right? He's gonna drill a hole and he's gonna give me the thing, and it's gonna be beautiful. But the problem is then that weekend I'm gonna have the graduation party with the barbecue for my daughter. He's going to be down there routing his door, whatever it is he's doing in the garage. And I just drilled a hole for Doug. He doesn't invite me to his daughter's barbecue. Right, so I'm going to invite Bob to the barbecue. Now Bob's over at the barbecue, but now the Portnoys see, wait, we never invited Bob, and they see Bob's over, so I'm going to have to invite the Portnoys. Before long, the whole block is going to be at my barbecue wanting to be my friend, and that's the problem. Right? That's the problem. Welcome to the suburbs, right? That's the problem. And that's the insanity, right? So the thing that we would all dream about having is a block full of people we can actually enjoy and be with and support. Now, I borrowed Bob's drill. Now, Bob's going to feel free to ask me to come and tutor, he knows I'm a nerd, to tutor his daughter in algebra before her regents or something. And then the mother's going to give me some brownies that are going to be good, and we're going to actually be socialized. We're going to be resocialized. So it's as easy as that. Now, the thing is, the hardest part of this equation is not to do something for someone else, is to ask something of someone else. It's way harder. It's way harder to ask for something. That's why when someone new moved to the neighborhood and you brought them a plate of brownies, right? Are you bringing them the brownies because they really need brownies? Do they really want on the first night in a new house their kids to be going to sleep after eating a brownie? Right? It's hard enough to get them down anyway, right? This is the new house. No, it's not a favor. The favor you're doing is they owe you something, is the favor. They've moved into a neighborhood where now they owe something to everyone else on the block, which gives them an opportunity to reciprocate. Because now they can do something for you, because they already took the hard part, which is accepting the gift. Right? That's the way you knit the fabric of community, of interdependence, of people doing things for each other. But we don't do that now. We give it to the market. Right? We'd rather, God, I'm going to go to a friggin' lactation consultant rather than ask this old woman, how do I breastfeed my baby? Right? Because what is that intimacy is the thing that we've been made to be afraid of. And finally, once you've re-socialized, you get to the fourth one, which is the weirdest one for me, is cultivate awe. Cultivate awe. Once you're having that party together, I mean, it's like a little mini suburban rave or something. You're with people, you're having that, and you get that elevated moment of there's something, all that awe is experiencing that there's something greater than yourself. You're connected to something more. You're connected to your community. You're connected to the Grand Canyon. You're connected to the Hopi people that were living in there. You're connected to the, I am, high and flying and one with everything. Whatever it is, that experience of awe is the most dangerous thing to those who would control us. Right? We have simulations of awe, it's that sort of uncanny valley, Google map dizziness that we think is awe, or the video game awe. That's not awe. Awe is looking in your lover's eyes, right? Awe is when your baby lies on you. You ever have that? Oh my God, when your baby lies on you. I mean, what is that, right? That is that when you get to walk in the woods behind the high school, and you first time you come upon that lake, when you're in the woods, it's like, oh, there's a whole, that moment. That's That's the awe that grounds you. We all know now medically, when you have an experience of awe, you have a different cytokine response, your immune system's improved, you're more generous for 3 days after a period of awe. You're more likely to do something for someone else.
Wow.
Yeah, dangerous shit, right? Give you some awe. Right? And that to me is, and I realize it's not the only way, but it's a way maybe for 99% of us to slowly affect change in the world around us. And we can still have 1% of us. How many people are in America? 400 million, something like that? So 1% would be 4 million. So okay, 4 million of us are going to be on committees figuring out the actual actions we need to do, what the policy is. 4 million is enough to task. Right? And the rest of us, we don't even have to really watch the TV that much. You know, maybe once a day, for half an hour in the evening, find out what the fuck happened in the world, right? It's not true anyway. I think Netanyahu said this to a journalist who said that to a publicist. We don't know what's going on. Is this a peace treaty or not? I have no idea, right? So half an hour is enough to spend on that, unless you're one of the 4 million, right, who can work on those problems. I don't need to be one of the 4 million. I'm really happy to be one of the other 396 million who go about the business of making this world a better place. And I don't mean in the Google way, I mean in the real way, because the more we're doing for each other, the less dependent we are on Walmart and Twitter and all of these companies. You don't need to fight the companies, just stop buying from the companies. And I know you can't, thank you, you're going to be dependent on them to some extent, but we can reduce it. The more we have each other, the more we're doing for each other. It's funny, I did that bit about the borrow a drill thing, and a guy, at the end of that talk, a guy got up and said, he was a business guy, and he said, well, yeah, but what about the drill company? Exactly. What about the drill company? And what about, and then he goes, what about the old woman who has shares of stock in the drill company and is depending on that yield to pay for her retirement, right? Because her kids aren't there, her family isn't, her neighborhood isn't there. It's a slow transition from a culture of extraction and competition to a culture of care. But I would argue that that neighborhood of people going to the barbecue and doing favors and drilling whatever for each other is more likely to take care of each other better. You know, it's not like you go from one to the other. And yes, the drill company will slowly become less dominant in our world. But that's not a bad thing. Black & Decker doesn't have to be my parent or whatever it wants to be. You know, less drills, less is going to be sold, right? Because we are not at the mercy of an economic system. Economic system is the figure. Again, the GDP is the figure on the screen. If we're going for that rather than for this, then we're lost. And that's why I'm trying, I guess, as my climate activism is to get real Ram Dassi about it, but just to be here now, right, to experience other people. This is resocializing, it's awe-inspiring, it's agency triggering, and it's since winning for me to do this together. And so far they can't stop us. But I would argue, this is back to Hannah Arendt or somebody, or who was it? Gertrude Stein, who said it's just like a few people sitting around a table talking is like the most subversive thing. That's it. I mean, this is the conspiracy. This is it. What does conspire mean? And what's the roots? To breathe together. Conspire. Breathe together. Isn't that beautiful? Breathe together. That's what we're doing. That's how we can, I think, have fun, make change, and be dangerous in a safe way together.